Let me tell you a story. It begins in the summer of 1919, where a young Michael Volpe of Vestaburg, Pennsylvania, avid inventor and apparent excessive drug user, had a dream where he thought he could make a wrench that had a spot for every single fastener that was ever made, built right into its design. And he came up with this insane contraption, which consists of numerous locations for multiple different shaped fasteners, from large hexagons to square headed fasteners to, for some reason, octagonal fasteners and pentagonal fasteners. Why? Nobody knows. I'm assuming the drugs. What I'm here to do today is to somehow recreate this. It has never been recreated, to my knowledge, most likely because it's so dumb, but so interesting at the exact same time. And it must be recreated. The actual patent description leaves much to be desired because he decided that just a little blurb saying that this is just an ornamental design for a wrench was enough. And apparently it was, to get this thing actually patented. And the most hilarious part to me is that after designing a wrench with this many potential fastening, tightening, or unscrewing locations, he decides, hey, let's put an alligator wrench on the bottom just in case this doesn't factor in every single thing in existence. And ironically, negates the entire purpose of this side of the wrench, because an alligator wrench can actually grab on to every single type of fastener with such a simple design. A pure genius in his time, clearly. I have taken the time to try and draw out all of the potential fastening sizes and locations. There are over 47 that I can count. There are some that I cannot solve and figure out. These specifically in this corner here on the right side, I'm not entirely sure what they are there for, but maybe we will figure that out as it goes along in the process. This shaded area near the top also concerns me. I believe it looks like a scraper. Something like an axe or a screwdriver would not really make sense based on the location of the handle in reference to this. If it was, like here or something, maybe. But this is probably a scraper. We'll never know. The description says nothing because he was incredibly high at the time of this drawing. I have decided to adjust the scale of this patented wrench drawing in order to have the distance from here to here being the largest square fastener distance be 1 inch. And when I do that, these other ones kind of fall in line into nice, appropriate, like 7/8 and 3/4 sizes that would probably make sense for the time. So we will be going with this scale, and I will be slapping this onto a glorious slab of 3/8 thick 4140, which we will machine and harden and sensualize accordingly on this journey of excessive filing.
Step 1 is dangerously high plant machining. Always safe, always glorious. I am a master machinist, unparalleled in his prime. What I'm really doing is just kind of surfacing and sizing the edges nice and parallel so that I can clamp it not insanely vertically and keep everything nice and square. But while it is jacked up vertically like this, I have the opportunity to cut the slots for most of the square fastener locations. And I'm just kind of generally getting close, staying away from the true edges as much as possible. And I will clean those up either by a fancier machining process or just by hand as time goes on. The glue that I used clearly is insufficient, and the oil is making it detach from the steel. So throughout this process, you'll see maybe 4 different pieces of paper that were glued on, all located appropriately every time, which is easy, but just the glue does not hold against the oil. I'm glad I didn't die doing this type of machining. There's a lot of potential for it to just slap me in the face or break a bit or something like that, but I went slow. I made sure I wasn't climb cutting in any way, and I just took my time and actually clamped down the table when I needed to. A miracle, I know. So I'm cutting around the blade scraper portion that I think exists. We'll see if that's true or not. And then I can do, I guess, a rounded cut on these portions of the wrench. Now this would be the top of the wrench if you were looking at it face on. Just to give you some reference in case you are lost. And this is obviously massively sped up. I am going way slower than you would even realize, because this stresses me out. Now, after the kind of side machining, I can drill little pilot holes all over the place, really just by eye, because I have no way of measuring otherwise. That is quick and easy. And that's fine. I'll finalize all these shapes by hand with a file. And the filing really never ends. I think I drilled 2,641 holes into this wrench. And I probably could have done another 5,000. Just to be safe. This was the dangerous move. The extended, super long drill action is not safe. Basically, a lot of what I'm doing here is not meant to be done this way. It's not even clamped down properly, Eric. God, sicken me. Now, hollowing out the middle, I left until near the end because I didn't want to squish it in the vise and warp it in some way, because once I hollow this entirely out, it doesn't have enough strength to maintain structural integrity. I feel like I could bend it if I really clamp down with the vise. So we're not going to do that. We're going to stay safe. Now on the tinier holes, I have to get my jack stand out, as you can see there, holding it up. And you just use a standard drill bit, no more end mills, and get as close as I can. There's some blue Dykem on the sides for marking out after I got annoyed by the constant lack of gluiness that this paper is providing me. But in the end, it doesn't massively matter because I'm doing this. Okay. I got the slotting attachment on the bridge port. I made a custom cutter for cutting a gear, I believe, for the wine corker. And I'm just using it here. It still functions just fine to create nice, glorious 90-degree edges in these spaces. And I'll clean those up officially with the file. I just need to get as much material as I can removed without filing. Before I waste my life doing that for 97 hours. This machine is insanely mesmerizing, and I absolutely love using it when I get the chance, which isn't very often. It's kind of a pain to set up as you have to turn the entire head on the bridge port all the way around, messing up all my dialing in that I've done, but what can you do? This is still faster than filing by a long shot. And you know you're doing it right when you have these little curls coming off. It's not scraping, it's staying sharp. You need lots of oil, and you just go very slowly. Like this is, well, this isn't real time, but before it was. You can see that consistent depth away from the edge. I am maintaining that as much as possible in case I need to put another cool piece of paper on it and I misaligned it or something. So then I realized getting into these even tinier spaces where the custom cutter itself can't even fit wasn't really going to work, and it obviously keeps dropping out because I don't tighten anything apparently. And I can just switch to the metal cutting bandsaw to remove some material here, very roughly obviously. And it seemed to work just fine. This whole process was just a bunch of different metal removing methods, possibly every single one that I own in the shop, to get this done. Now we switch to the gloriously nice 90-degree files, if I keep myself 90 degrees. This was basically hours and hours and hours of fine-tuning. I then switched to this bad boy and just blasted the pneumatic air filer into every hole. This worked too. It just took forever. You can kind of see me half done with the filing. I got kind of sick of it and switched to hollowing out the middle because there's more filing to do in there anyways once I remove this material, which is now the appropriate time. I took my biggest end mill and just slowly went to town on it. I don't have any other way of really removing the center other than torch cutting it, I guess. But this is easy too. So I got kind of close, you know, whatever you can do with end mills. And I just just continue on with the process. Now, this very odd alligator wrench, because no other alligator wrench I've ever seen contains teeth on both sides of the jaws. Okay, I don't really know why this is the case here, but whatever. Either way, I get to use my glorious new-to-me die filer, which I've wanted for a super long time, and it is so much fun to use. And it actually goes fairly quickly. Unfortunately, the only attachments I have for it are the cutting, as in like the metal saw cutting attachments for it, and not the one that would hold the file vertically on the top and the bottom of the file. So I will need to make that when I go to restore this machine. But regardless, it wasn't too off in any crazy way. The larger files make things go faster, but it was still a very lengthy process. And I just sat there, really. Let the machine do most of the work, but just breathe in metal dust for 11 hours. With the internals and externals done, I can focus on the kind of handle, if you want to call it, and the weird blade thing that I am going to call a convex scrapey boy, because I don't really see it being any other shape. based on the drawing. If it was concave, it would probably just snap off. Now, I'm going to just heat the scraper and the alligator jaws to the point where they can harden. The rest I'm going to keep solid and not brittle. I'm just too nervous about how delicate some of these pieces are. This is that bowl of canola oil that's been sitting in here since the last wrench recreation video. I haven't tripped over it. Now I want to test the hardness to make sure I actually did the heat quench properly. And it seems fine. I was hoping for somewhere around 60. Rock will see. That would mean I got it all the way up to temp, and I will temper this afterwards. It's just I need to know right now. This is, at this point at 60, is way too brittle. I want it to be around 52 by the end of the tempering. That would be a nice wrench hardness, and it's also the same as the hardness you'd get on most screwdrivers and modern adjustable wrenches. These teeth are a little softer, as in not as hard, probably because they cool down really quickly because of the thinness of the material there. Okay, here it is. I have tempered it so it is not super crazy hard to the point that this would shatter into a million pieces. I also just focused the heat on here, and essentially these are the only areas that are hardened. I was too nervous to get all the hardness up in this, just because stuff like this would probably just snap right off and then I'd cry. So I'd rather it just bend off and then I bend it back. But look, watch. Oh, but what if I go this way? Oh, wow. Such a unique and rare invention at the time, considering I could have just done this with an alligator wrench. That actually bites very nicely. Ooh, almost too nicely. Clearly a genius design, but it does fit many, many different sizes. Tons of little square guys. The pentagram fastener I don't have because it's the sign of the beast. That's gone forever. Great job, Eric. These all will eventually fit in here. You just got to find the right hole. Here, see? That one goes in there. It's kind of confusing. Oh, that also fits in there. Very nice. So I'm guessing these square fasteners also seem to fit in the octagonal ones, which I guess is useful. This is one that's like a little too undersized, I guess. Or maybe this one's too oversized. Anyways, it seems to work fine. I'm not complaining in either way, really. But just why? There's just so much why. Let's go talk about this for a little bit at the workbench. Okay, I need to quickly talk about the alterations that I made to this wrench that differ from the patent. Okay, this was due mostly to the restriction of the shape and size of the files I could obtain to actually file in all this insanity here. So I have changed some locations to a hexagon instead of an octagon. The smaller the fastener size, the more difficult it was to do an octagon shaped fastener hole. I hate that that even exists here. It makes no sense. So some have now been turned to square and some are hexagon as seen here. Secondly, I still do not know what this is. And if this looks like it's off and weirdly shaped, that's because it actually is. And that's how it was designed. I don't know what they do. Some people have suggested to me when I explain this whole patent design on Instagram, it looks like something would mirror itself into these two slots. It's actually not the case because these lines don't line up. And this isn't even in the exact middle, this little square point here. I have no idea. This must have been maybe some custom fastening thing that the drunken Michael Volpe had in mind. I don't know. The teeth have even been filed to the mismatched shape of the patent drawing. There's always a discussion to be had on how, truthful to the patent drawing you should be. But in this case, I tried to stick as close as possible, even though production versions of patented objects are never really the same as the patented. I also have decided, just because I would like to continue the insanity, to add triangular fastener positions in a way that in no way can actually work. So that makes me happy. I've also decided that the shading was a convex scraper. That seemed to make more sense in terms of you jamming something with it versus a concave one, which would have made this so sharp and dangerous that I'd be somewhat fearful just handing it to somebody at some point. I did get fairly close, I think, in trying to get this to 1 inch. Let's see. Oh! I'm 5/10 off. I'm just not good enough, I guess. Anyways, so that's appropriately sized, and the rest all kind of fall in line. I tried to do my best. I lightly sanded the edges here just because I didn't want to chop my hands with a nice slice. But either way, it does fit pretty nicely in the hand. I still, at the end of the day, cannot figure out some of the parts. I'd love it if you can help in some way. Even the entirety of the design needs some further explanation. Maybe somebody out there has some details. If not, that's it. I hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you in the next patent recreation video. Later.